like two old married people. We fought about everything. And if he was for it, I was against it, and
Willie Nelson is one of the most prestigious names in country music. Now, at 92, he's reflecting on a lifetime of music and friendship. For the first time, he's truly opening up about his complicated but undeniable bond with fellow legend, Waylon Jennings. Stay tuned as we reveal the untold stories of their brotherhood and the music that made them icons. Early life and career. Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings were not just country singers. They were close friends who changed the sound of country music. They believed in doing things their way and did not follow the rules of Nashville. Instead, they made their own rules. That decision brought them closer and helped shape a new kind of country music. They were known for trusting each other. When one took a risk, the other backed him. They were different in many ways, but they wanted the same thing: freedom to make music their way, and they did, and made music together for several years. Now, Willie is 92, and Waylon has been gone since 2002, but Willie is speaking up about Waylon, and there are things no one has heard before. To understand all this better, let's take it back to where it all started. Willie Hugh Nelson was born in 1933 in Abbott, Texas. His parents were not around for most of his childhood. His grandparents raised him. When he was 6, his grandfather gave him a guitar. Willie learned fast. He started writing songs when he was still a young boy. He also wrote poems. As a teenager, he performed in small shows and local events. After high school, he joined the military. Later, he worked as a radio DJ and played in bars. He moved to Nashville in the early 1960s. He wrote songs for other singers. Some of those songs became big hits like Crazy, Funny How Time Slips Away, and Hello Walls. Even though his songs were successful, Willie was not. Record labels in Nashville were unsure how to market him. They said his voice was strange and his style was not clean enough. They tried to change him, but he did not want to change, so he left. He met Jennings in the mid-1960s in Texas when Jennings was still working as a radio DJ and trying to make it as a singer. Willie was already a respected songwriter at the time, but not yet the superstar he later became. Waylon Arnold Jennings, on the other hand, was born in Littlefield, Texas in 1937. He got his first guitar when he was 8. By 12, he was already working at a local radio station. He dropped out of school to play music. In the late 1950s, he became friends with Buddy Holly. He played bass in Holly's band. In 1959, Waylon gave up his seat on the plane that later crashed and ended Holly's life. That moment stayed with Waylon for the rest of his life. He kept playing music. He performed in Texas and Arizona, and then moved to Nashville. In the 1960s, he signed a record deal. He hoped it would be his big break, but the label controlled everything. They told him what to sing, who to work with, and how to sound. Waylon hated it. Willie also had a contract that gave him no freedom. He could not use his band. He could not choose his songs. They both hated them, and both men wanted out. Willie walked away from Nashville. He moved back to Texas. In Austin, he found a new kind of crowd. They were younger and more open to his style. They liked country music, but they also liked rock and folk. Willie fit right in. He let his hair grow long and played in bars that welcomed all kinds of people. Before fame, both Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings worked regular jobs to survive. Jennings was a radio DJ in Lubbock, Texas, where he played country records and developed a strong ear for what worked. He also met Buddy Holly, who helped Jennings get early gigs. That experience shaped how Jennings viewed the music industry, hands-on and rough around the edges. Meanwhile, Willie sold vacuum cleaners, worked as a farmhand, and even tried his hand as a Bible salesman. He would often write songs late at night after his shift. Those jobs didn't just pay the bills, they taught them patience. Both men lived through hard times. Jennings once had to sleep in his car after shows. Willie spent years trying to get anyone in Nashville to listen to his songs. These experiences helped shape their later independence. They did not enter the music business with ease or privilege. Their success came slowly, with years of rejection, small venues, and lessons that later defined the outlaw country movement. Waylon and Willie's bond started from mutual respect and a shared frustration with the Nashville music system, which they felt limited creative freedom. Waylon watched what Willie was doing. Around that time, he got a new manager. The manager helped Waylon fight for a better contract, and it worked. He got full control over his music. He could record with his own band, which was called the Wailers, and pick his own songs. He finally sounded the way he wanted to sound. Willie got a new deal too. He signed with Atlantic Records. He put together a band called The Family. He made very successful albums. He did not care if they sounded different from everyone else's. He only cared about doing his thing his way. Albums like Shotgun Willie and Phases and Stages helped him rebuild his career and pushed him into the world of stardom. Waylon also had some albums that helped him become more popular. He released albums like Lonesome, Ornery and Mean, and Honky Tonk Heroes. Those records had a deep and natural sound. He was singing from his heart, and people started to notice that. He did not look or sound like other Nashville stars, nor did he try to fit in. He was okay with standing out as long as he was free to express himself. In 1975, Willie released Red-Headed Stranger. It was simple and different. Many people said it would not sell, but it became a hit. Around that time, the record label put together an album called Wanted, The Outlaws. It had songs by Willie, Waylon, Jesse Coulter, and Tom Paul Glaser. That record changed everything. It became the first country album to sell over 1 million copies. It made the term outlaw country famous. Even before their fame, Willie and Waylon always had each other's respect. They did not compete because they both admired each other's work. They supported each other and were proof that artists could succeed without following the Nashville system. That marked the beginning of their steady friendship. They made music together, toured together, and stood up for each other. This was how the outlaw movement began, with two men who believed in music and each other. The story isn't just about their humble beginnings. It's about how their friendship impacted their lives and what Willie had to say about it, since Waylon is no longer here to talk. Their friendship and collaborations. Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings shared a bond that defined the outlaw country movement. They were said to have fought like an old married couple, disagreed on most things, yet supported each other through unhealthy habits, debt, and creative struggle. Their friendship gave the outlaw country its heart. Willie Nelson has been married 4 times. His first wife was Martha Matthews. They had 3 children together, Lana, Susie, and Billy. That marriage lasted for about 10 years and was known to be stormy. Later, he married Shirley Colley, a fellow country singer. They eventually divorced after Shirley discovered he had fathered a child with another woman. That child was Paula Carlene Nelson, who also became a musician. His 3rd marriage was to Connie Kepke, and they had another daughter named Amy. His 4th and current wife is Annie D'Angelo. They married in the early 90s and have 2 sons together, Lucas and Micah. Lucas and Micah have followed their father's path into music. Despite the ups and downs in his personal life, Nelson remains close to many of his children, and some have even performed with him on stage. Waylon Jennings, coincidentally, was also married 4 times. His final and most well-known marriage was to singer Jesse Coulter. They got married in the early 70s and stayed together for more than 3 decades. Together, they had 1 son, Waylon Albright Jennings, known as Shooter. Shooter followed in his father's footsteps and became a country rock musician. Jennings also had children from earlier relationships. In total, he had 6 children. They were known to have supported each other through hard times. They faced health troubles and financial problems head-on. Jennings battled substance dependence well into the mid-1980s before he got clean. He suffered from hepatitis, diabetes, and other health problems later in life, and Nelson helped him and was there for him through it all. Nelson also faced personal challenges, including tax debt and the loss of a home in a fire. Jennings stood by him, too. Their loyalty ran deeper than disagreements. That was what made their bond so strong. In 1984, they joined Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson to form the supergroup The Highwaymen. They released hits like Highwaymen and toured for over a decade. Even there, they clashed. Jennings' son recalled they bickered like brothers, sometimes over creative decisions. However, they maintained the respect they had for each other, no matter how serious their fights were. Their partnership gave outlaw country a face. In 1976, the compilation Wanted, The Outlaws featuring Nelson Jennings, Jesse Coulter, and Tom Paul Glaser, became the first platinum country record. Their album Waylon and Willie followed in 1978, reaching number 1 and spending 10 weeks atop the country chart. The single Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys became a signature duet and won a Grammy Award. Their disagreements were often legendary. Jennings wrote the song Bob Wills Is Still the King after a booking dispute with Nelson. It was clever and pointed. Willie said, tongue-in-cheek, that Jennings was disappointed when Willie agreed with the lyric. Even when they clashed, they respected each other's fire and honesty. They toured together, wrote songs together, and supported one another's music. Nelson co-wrote Jennings's hit, Good-Hearted Woman. They recorded multiple duet and group albums through the late 70s and 80s, including Waylon and Willie, WB2, and Take It to the Limit. Nelson's Crazy and Jennings' albums like Dreaming My Dreams reflected their shared rebellion and personal outlook.
Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cows.
In July 1974, Willie Nelson co-produced Waylon Jennings' album, This Time, at Tom Paul Glaser's Hillbilly Central Studio in Nashville. The studio became a place where musicians could feel free. The doors stayed open, and people came in and out, often staying late into the night. Many of them had been pushed aside by the Nashville music industry. Willie Nelson was said to have enjoyed time spent outside on the lawn, while Waylon Jennings stayed inside, working on his music with full control. Nelson was not just there as a friend. He believed in creative freedom and supported Jennings during that time. Jennings later said that working there felt like being in a college town for musicians. It was a break from the old way of doing things in Nashville. Nelson and Jennings had finally built something for themselves. Their collaboration on This Time marked one of their earliest co-productions, an album they shaped together, rejecting the old system and proving that true music could flourish outside Nashville's strict rules. That work and shared studio time at Glazer's studio helped confirm their bond. Both credited the Glazer sessions with fueling Outlaw country. Nelson co-producer credit showed he wasn't just a friend but a creative partner. Their mutual respect at that moment benefited them positively in so many ways. Even after fame, their friendship remained intact. Nelson said Jennings was the only real free spirit he knew. Jennings said Willie never changed. What you saw was what he was. They fought, but they never stopped respecting each other. Their opposing views helped shape their sound and their message. Today, their legacy lives. Outlaw country inspired generations of artists, from Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash, and Billy Joe Shaver to Sturgill Simpson, Miranda Lambert, and Chris Stapleton. Their loyalty and dedication to artistry set a powerful example for all who came after. The things Willie Nelson had to say. After Waylon Jennings passed away on February 11, 2002 in Chandler, Arizona at 64 years old, Willie Nelson had a lot to say about him. Waylon had battled serious health problems, including diabetes and hepatitis. He had stopped touring much earlier when his health began to decline. When news of his demise reached Willie Nelson, he was clearly grief-stricken. He called Jennings a great songwriter and said they had made incredible music together. Willie was sad, but his voice was always full of respect when he mentioned Jennings later publicly. In the final years of his life, Waylon Jennings kept a smaller circle. Still, he stayed connected to music and spent time with his wife, Jessie Coulter, and son, Shooter. When the news of his passing came in early 2002, it was not unexpected, but it hit hard. Friends from every part of his life spoke up, but Willie Nelson mostly stayed quiet at first. Later, when asked, he called Waylon one of the real ones. He said that even when they disagreed, he always respected Waylon for standing his ground. What stood out most was how the music world responded. Tributes poured in not just from country legends, but from rock and folk artists too. Waylon had left something behind that crossed genres and generations. His loss was not just personal, it was national and felt by fans all over the world. Nelson has mentioned Jennings several times in later interviews. He said Waylon always told the truth in his songs and was someone he considered a spiritual brother in music. He once admitted that Jennings was the only true free spirit he ever met, and that what you saw was what he was. Even after years of disagreements, Nelson described their partnership as a deep mutual respect. Willie Nelson used the passing to reflect on both their professional work and personal bond. He spoke about Bob Wills' Still the King, the song Jennings wrote as a response to a booking dispute with Nelson. Nelson remembered refusing an argument by agreeing with the lyrics. "Truth be told, I did like the song," he wrote. "As far as I was concerned, Bob Wills was still the king." Jennings had been gearing up to argue, but Willie stayed calm, and still they remained just as close. Their friendship had always been argumentative, but rooted in love and loyalty. Willie noted in his memoir that although Jennings sometimes felt overshadowed by Willie's growing fame, their bond never broke. Despite everything they've been through, they always came back to each other, united by music. After Jennings' demise, Willie referenced their shared time as part of a living legacy. He spoke at tribute shows and events, often introducing Jennings as someone with great humility and kindness. Nelson once said he was still the only one left from their Highwaymen supergroup. He said, "That's just not funny," referring to how far they had come and how many were gone. Willie's comments always kept personal grief private. He rarely mentioned Jennings' demise explicitly on stage. Instead, he would pay tribute through songs, the same ones they recorded together or ones Jennings loved. Audiences recall Nelson's voice breaking when he sang Good-Hearted Woman, the song co-written with Jennings during a late-night poker session. The evidence is that even though it has been more than 2 decades since Waylon passed, Willie still misses him dearly. Waylon and Willie were part of the Highwaymen with Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson, a group that recorded and toured through the 80s and 90s. Nelson later said that Jennings had given him the courage to stand up and demand creative control. Jennings' fight for artistic freedom paved the way for the Highwaymen and for outlaw country to spread. Nelson called those years among the greatest chapters of his life.
But I will remain.
In his later solo shows, Nelson often ends with "Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys," the hit duet he recorded with Jennings in 1978. He tells the story of how Jennings wrote the song and credits him for his fire and rough edge. Today, Nelson continues to honor Jennings' memory. He asked that Jennings be considered for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after Willie's induction. He said Jennings deserved to be celebrated alongside the greats. In interviews, Nelson still refers to Jennings as a truthful man in every sense. emphasizing the honesty that connected their music and lives. Historians and music writers also quote Nelson's words as proof of Jennings's profound influence. One author wrote that despite occasional jealousy or rivalry, Nelson always considered Jennings the backbone of outlaw country. He said their friendship defined the movement more than any song or album. Nelson's tribute made clear that the bond lasted beyond life. When Waylon passed away, he left behind his family, wife Jessie Coulter, and his son Shooter Jennings. Nelson later mentioned meeting with Jessie after the funeral and paid his respects. He reflected in interviews that grief is strange, that sometimes it feels like Waylon never left, especially when he sings their songs and expects him to fill in his parts. Willie Nelson's recent albums often include nods to Waylon. Nelson has said that writing new songs meant reckoning with loss. Songs like Still Not Dead Today echo the feeling of being the last man standing. In those moments, Nelson admits that his heart still hammers for his friend who lost their life young. Waylon's voice may be gone, but his presence lives forever in Willie's heart. In 2007, during a tour stop in Texas, Nelson paused before singing Luckenbach, Texas. The original version had been a duet with Waylon. Nelson told the crowd that he could still hear Jennings's voice in the empty spaces of the song. "He never really left," Nelson said. "He's still here when we play this." Fans clapped, but many said it felt more like a quiet prayer than a performance. When Shooter Jennings, Waylon's son, began his music career, Willie Nelson was one of the first to support him. Nelson told journalists that Shooter had his daddy's voice but his sound. He encouraged Shooter to take risks, just like Waylon once did. It was Nelson's way of keeping that spirit alive without turning it into nostalgia. He never wanted Waylon to be remembered as a statue. He wanted him remembered as the legend he was. In 2015, Nelson appeared on CMT Crossroads and was asked what made Waylon Jennings different. He answered simply, he didn't lie, he wouldn't know how. Nelson explained that Jennings's honesty was not just in the songs he sang, but also in life and his interactions with people. He further added that he told the truth, even when it was ugly. He stood up for the little guy. He called out the fake ones. That was Waylon. Even in his memoirs, Nelson speaks of Jennings nicely. He admits they had arguments and that Jennings can be hard sometimes, but it always returns to one truth. They loved each other. It was not always easy. It was not always smooth, but what they had was always real. Nelson wrote, "We disagreed a lot. We drank too much. We played too loud, but I would trust him with my life." Nelson never tried to replace Jennings in the years that followed. He continued performing their songs, but he did not bring in new voices to fill the space. He said there was no second Waylon. In a documentary filmed in 2020, Nelson was asked what he would say to Waylon if he could. He smiled and said, "We did good, didn't we?" That one sentence said it all. Life after Waylon's demise. Willie Nelson, now 92, is still touring, writing, recording, and living on his terms. Since the passing of his longtime friend and collaborator Waylon Jennings in 2002, Nelson has carried the outlaw community alone. He reflects on that friendship often. He describes Jennings as the only true free spirit he has ever met. Nelson has said repeatedly that Waylon always told the truth in his songs, and that honesty shaped their music and their bond. He said Jennings never changed. What you saw was what you got. Their shared work and shared struggles remain part of Nelson's identity. Today, Willie splits time between his ranch near Spicewood, Texas, and homes in Maui and other quiet places. He lives with his wife Annie D'Angelo, whom he married in 1991. They have 2 sons together, Lucas and Micah. All of Willie's children remain part of his life. His daughter Paula Carlene released music of her own. Lucas fronts his band, Promise of the Real. Micah produced Willie's 2024 album, Last Leaf on the Tree, an album Nelson says stands as an unexpected gift. Nelson's health is far from fragile. He says he feels good and does not hurt. He takes care of himself and has given up smoking tobacco for years and now uses edibles instead. He quit drinking most alcohol too. His wife Annie says he stays active and eats carefully. He says marijuana saved his life when he suffered pneumonia and night terrors. Now the couple is working on a cookbook that mixes cannabis and comfort food. Nelson calls it another way of helping others. Musically, Willie has released Oh, What a Beautiful World in April of 2025. It is his 77th solo studio album, produced by Buddy Cannon and including songs by longtime friend Rodney Crowell. Nelson remains prolific. He joked that he hopes to reach 200 albums. He continues making new music and plays occasional shows, often sharing the stage with his sons or old friends. Willie speaks about Waylon most often by performing songs they co-wrote or by sharing a stage memory. One of the brightest examples is Mama's Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. At live shows, Nelson often tells how Waylon wrote the song and how it reflected their shared grit and humor. When he plays it now, his voice sometimes breaks. It is a brief moment, but the emotion is real and visible. Waylon Jennings' family continues to live under the influence of his legacy. His wife for decades, Jessie Coulter, remarried in February of 2023, to longtime friend Arlen Brower, 21 years after Waylon's demise. She remains active in music and spoke publicly in 2006 about recording Out of the Ashes, her first album after Jennings' Pa'ad. She continues to honor his memory through performances and interviews. Waylon Jennings fathered 7 children. Most of them live private lives. His eldest son, Terry, started a music management company and passed away in 2019. Julie passed away in 2014. Dina passed away in 2015. Brother Buddy Dean lives in Nashville, surviving a heart transplant. Tommy Lynn lives privately. His youngest child, Shooter Jennings, is now a respected musician and Grammy-winning producer. He has spoken about being shaped by his father's advice never to try to be like someone else. Shooter lives in Hollywood with his wife and 2 children and occasionally collaborates with Willie in tribute events. Nelson and Shooter also have performed together. Nelson has said Shooter's voice carries Waylon's spirit, but with his style. He supports Shooter's creative choices and sees his success as part of Waylon's ongoing influence. They do not simply preserve Jennings' songs, they build on them. Willie rarely speaks publicly about Waylon's demise in interviews, choosing instead to touch on the subject in stories or song intros during concerts. He introduced Jennings at tribute events with honor. He highlights the shared songwriting, the late-night recording sessions, and the jokes they told one another on stage. In recent years, Nelson's live shows have become more selective. He emphasizes quality over quantity. He often performs at Farm Aid, tribute events, and intimate venues. He still plays the guitar with both hands, though slower, and remains staggeringly sharp in memory and timing. He says he does not think about fading away too much because he still has songs left to sing. Now, Nelson also coaches younger artists, especially those connected to the Outlaw tradition. He has appeared on songs by Chris Stapleton and Miranda Lambert, and occasionally invites Shooter Jennings on stage. He sees his role as both artist and midwife for a new generation of country rebels. Willie lives a quieter life than he once did. He spends his evenings with Annie on their porch and plays poker with friends, practices martial arts on his tour bus for fun, and sometimes folds hemp paper for rolling. He stays physically active and mentally engaged. He still travels for shows, though less often. He does not hide. He still appears in public and continues speaking on causes like farmers' rights, freedom, and cannabis legalization. Nelson's relationship with Waylon's family remained respectful and close. He keeps in touch with Jesse. He has appeared at events honoring Jennings' memory. He sometimes texts Shooter after shows. He says he has lost old friends and now counts on lighter circles, but Waylon's family and their children remain part of his circle. Willie Nelson continues to live a life that reflects both loss and purpose. He is the last living member of the outlaw country generation, but he carries that lineage with grace and grit. Each song he still sings echoes the truth he shared with Waylon. His family life reflects the complexity of decades on the road, children, grandchildren, and a devotion to creative independence. Jennings' children carry on his legacy, and Nelson honors that by supporting Jennings' son in his absence. More than anything, Nelson and Willie showed us all that true friendship, artistry, and honesty can outlast fame, and that no matter how hard life gets, if you have someone by your side, you can get through anything. What do you think of Willie and Waylon's friendship? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring content like this. Before you go, kindly watch the other videos on your screen.